Ryan, what for you is the perfect fishing show? What makes a show like this great?
Well, I think it's the adventure. It's more to it than just fishing. It's about preparing for the trip, packing for the trip, and then traveling to get there. We're pretty lucky up here. You can drive for hours in a boat, or you can drive for a few hours in a road. We don't have a lot of selection with the road, but you can go forever. You can fly in. There's lots of different options, and that's what makes the adventure is just getting there. And then the fish is just the bonus. And you're out there and you can't plan for it. Weather happens, so you just kind of got to roll with it and adjust on the fly. And that's what makes it cool because you don't know what's going to happen. You can only predict so much and be ready for so much, and you just kind of got to be ready as it comes at you. But the biggest thing is the adventure and getting new people out there, taking them fishing and seeing the experience, living it through them. It's pretty cool. Introducing kids to fishing. I like taking my kids out a lot and just watching them light up and they get a big fish. We don't need to catch it. It just needs to come near the boat and they can see it and they get all excited. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty much me with fishing as well. I just came close enough, didn't even catch it, but you know what? I knew it was there.
Yeah, long
And that's
distance
all
release. Yeah.
There you go. Now, there's already so many adventures I want to ask about there, but just filming this is an adventure as well, right? In terms of deciding that you want to put a show together and then getting it to this point. What's that been like?
Well, it's been pretty interesting. It's been a giant learning curve. Anything, it just sounds easy. It's like, go get a camera, go out and film. But I swear the fish know because you turn that camera on and sometimes it just stops biting. And you just can't let it play with you. You just got to keep going, keep grinding it out. And it's funny, like when I started the pilot, I texted a friend in town that has a business and I said, what do I got to do to make a fishing show? There's no fishing show in Yellowknife anymore. He's like, actually, come to the pitch it event, the Yellowknife Film Festival. I was like, oh yeah, when's that? He's like, tomorrow. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll be there. I came, I pitched it, and here I am. I just finished filming season 2. And the theme for season 1 was really grinding it out. It's learning, and I had a new cameraman. We're getting to learn each other and spending time with each other and just kind of getting the groove going. But it was challenging, a lot of weather events where we had to cancel and I had to kind of make a new plan, but I only had limited time to film. So I have a full-time job. I don't do this full-time. So it's kind of, I got a weekend, I got to get it done. So the theme of the first season was grind it out. And the second season has just been a dream season. Everything came together despite everything we were dealing with 2020. But the fish were just there and waiting and willing to bite. It was just getting there.
That's the interesting part to me. Now, I've seen nature documentaries and the behind-the-scenes footage where you'll have the camera operator that waited for weeks just to get that one shot of a bird of paradise doing its special dance. And it didn't do it for 7 weeks, and finally it did. And I think about you going out filming this fishing show. And I think, how many weekends were there when someone with a full-time job trying to squeeze this in, basically were just rained out by the fish, if you like, all weekend long, and they just refused to play ball. And you just couldn't find a fish.
Well, it does happen, but that's the nice thing about it because the fish are the bonus. There's so many fish up here, you're eventually going to catch them. You just can't give up. And I'm not a fair weather fisherman. If it's raining, we're going to film. We're going to figure out a way to film. If the weather's bad, we're just going to wait it out. We'll sit on shore and we'll wait, or we'll readjust. We had a show this year. We went in the further reaches of Great Slave Lake, up in McLeod Bay, like 300 kilometers from town. And we've never been there before. And the guys I went with, they'd never been there before. We all caught our personal best fish out of the lake on that trip. We made it a little bit bigger. We did a 4-day trip and we filmed 2 TV episodes with some additional content on the end. But we pre-fished the night before and we figured, okay, well, we got something figured out. Woke up the next morning, 50-kilometer wind, couldn't make it out there. So we're like, oh, okay, well, we'll fish in front of camp, see what happens. We didn't leave for 4 days. You just have to adjust and you never know what'll come. You just got to keep adjusting as things come at you. You can't let it get to you.
What do you think is your biggest moment of the season that you've just finished filming? What is the moment that stands out to you?
I don't know. I filmed a bonus episode. I got back from my East Arm expedition and, I hadn't looked at my phone for 4 days, so I flipped it on. First thing that came at me was a staycation opportunity to fly to the Tree River. I was like, that's been a dream trip forever. The Tree River is on the coast of the Arctic Ocean in Nunavut, and it's teeming with Arctic char. And being that there was no lodges operating this year, I was like, well, yeah, I had to call my wife, and I was like, so that hair appointment you got, do you mind changing it? Luckily, after a couple of days of convincing, she gracefully adjusted her appointment. I was on that plane with a buddy, and we backpacked the Tree River for char, and it was absolutely epic. Like full spotting colored char. Some of the guides from up at Plumber's Lodge there kind of helped me out with some tips and tactics and what I'm getting into, and it was phenomenal. It's not a trip that you can just go and do. Like, to go there, you really need to be with an outfitter because the place is absolutely crawling with bears and every species of bears. I went with a mountain hunter that's got a lot of experience, so he was kind of my safety guy. So we had firearm because we were camping on the river. We kind of did what a lot of people don't really get a chance to do. That was a big highlight, but honestly, I've had a dream season. We filmed multiple shows, and we caught personal best fish, record-sized fish, almost every single episode. It was
I can hear other film producers out there just losing their minds listening to something going that well.
I've gone and shot this season now that is just epic, and I'm just like, well, how am I going to top this?
Not that many people get to sit here and say, how will I top 2020 right now? Most people...
just, like, I can catch bigger fish. I know there's bigger fish. We got some really big ones, but they're bigger. Like, Northwest Territory is pretty special for the size and the quantity of fish we have. You just got to get there. And that's the hardest part.
Well, funny you say that, because your show and what you do is essentially one of the biggest adverts for staycations that I can think of. You mentioned staycations. This has been the year to be you, to be doing this stuff, because kind of opportunities have fallen by the wayside for other people, right?
Yeah, well, with the pandemic hit, and a lot of outfitters that usually bring in clients from down south or overseas, well, they're not allowed to travel here, so it was like we essentially had the entire lake to ourselves. And we got to explore new areas, and I teamed up with a local outfitter who was still with Yellowknife Sport Fishing, and he was still managed to operate his business because he caters to a lot of local clientele. So he made a couple quick little changes, and he sold out most of his trips for the summer. So I tagged along with him at the end of the year, and we went out, and we've been talking about it for years to get out and fish together, and it just happens.
You had this incredible year. You had, it sounds like, a little bit of luck and a lot of great times. What do you feel like you learned the most behind the camera about the art of putting a show like yours together?
The big thing I learned about the most is anything can happen, and you just have to be willing to roll with it. It may not happen the way you planned it out, but sometimes it could be better if you just let it happen, and sometimes you don't even realize it until you get back and you start reviewing the footage, and you're like, wow, we really captured something here. Or if you start looking at multiple cameras, like one thing that stands out in my mind, I was with Andrew Moore from Yellowknife Sport Fishing, and he caught his personal best lake trout when we went out fishing. And I was spending the day with him learning about how to operate downriggers in his operation. And I had a buddy, the first time I expanded, I got a camera boat. I didn't have my drone license, so I took a 360 camera and stuck it on a 20-foot pole. It looks like there's a drone following the boat around. And we nailed the shot. I had an underwater camera. I see this 30-plus pound fish come up, follow my lure. I pulled it out to check the battery on the camera, and you see the fish swim over to the other side. And as I'm checking the camera battery, I was pointing at Andrew, and you see his rod going over, and the camera boat came by, and Andrew's just waving to the camera, and his rod's like dancing. And he looks over, and he's like, oh, and it's his biggest fish of his life that he's ever caught in Great Slave Lake. A giant, I think it was like 32, 33 pound lake trout. It was a monster. And we got all these different shots of it. It just all came together. It was neat. We didn't realize we got that until we got back and into the studio and kind of reviewing stuff. It's like, wow, that fish was right on cue. Yeah.
You've got the show onto Wild TV in Canada. It's airing in the US as well, I think, maybe even further.
Yeah, I think there's the Water Network, I believe, airs in the US. It's fairly new. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but it's a partner company with Wild TV, so I think it's some new broadcast networks that they're testing out. Yeah, and it's on Wild TV. It's across Canada right now, and and this week I think the fourth episode from season 1 is airing this week, and that was ice fishing with Andrew Moore on a local lake. So I try to break it up all throughout the seasons. We go ice fishing, we go on the boat, we backpack, we hike, canoe, kayak. It doesn't matter, whatever it takes to get there to get to the fish.
And so, having gotten onto those networks, what's it like to bring it back to the Yellowknife Film Festival where you pitched it and say, look, here it is. This is what I've done with that.
It's kind of surreal. I really haven't thought of it a whole lot, but it's pretty cool because knowing where I started, and I was nervous. And I just got up there and I pitched it. I think I read right off my script. I was so nervous, but it worked. I got a little bit of funding, and I've just been able to, I got a pilot. They liked it. I got a little bit more funding, was able to expand into a 3-episode season. It was eye-opening how expensive it is to film, or how expensive it can be to film. So we're very grassroots when we make it happen. And I've expanded into this year, adding in a social media component to it. So I've developed a YouTube channel as well. So when I'm out, try to take advantage of the time when I'm out there and shooting additional content. You know, maybe the fish aren't biting, so there's something else we can film. We can provide tips, and based on my experiences, I fished all my life. I've worked in retail and distribution, and I like to be able to share my knowledge of what works for me and what works up here to help other anglers make the best decision when they're coming here, because you're limited to 50 pounds in your bag. And I know, knowing me, I'll wear the clothes I got and the rest is fishing gear.
But that's interesting for me, because when you look at social media, I imagine there are quite a few fishing shows out there, right? You know, if you go across the whole world, maybe not so much in the NWT right now, but across Canada, the rest of the world, there's a lot of shows out there. How do you hope that yours sometimes stands out?
Well, I think that's the thing. I looked at it. I did start a YouTube channel a long time ago, but I never really did anything with it. I get frustrated. I get the shot, but then I didn't have the editing software to handle it. I was just like, okay, I'm going fishing. And sometimes it's hard. You got to think about filming and not just fishing. And sometimes fishing trumps it. But it seems like on YouTube nowadays, everybody has a fishing channel. And I think it's just a matter of, I might feel like I got something great, but if people don't like it, then it's not going to go anywhere. But I'll have that memory. You know, I can still look back at them myself. It's just a lot of people share the same dream of having a fishing show, and it's pretty cool that so many people can just start up a YouTube channel and start filming a fishing show, and just by doing that, it's practice. You may not get it right away, but you get better and better. The more you do it, the more you practice, and you just figure things out, and it's pretty cool. And I took a route of trying to go TV. I went with NorthwesTel Community Television. And then from there, from my YouTube channel, Wild TV had contacted me, and they said, hey, we'd like your show. Do you have any more that we can take a look at? And we'll see about getting it up on their channel. So, yeah, it's worked out.
Last question, having got it to that point, what do you want to do next with this? Is there still some big journey out there, some big show that you want to nail?
Yeah, there's still some stuff I'd like to do. But the biggest thing, there's so many places you can go up here, and there's so many ways you can do it. I don't know if there's one that really stands out in my mind, but the one that I'm planning for right now is we're doing a snowmobile expedition into Great Slave Lake, and we're going ice fishing for giant trout that quite possibly won't come through the hole because they're that big.
Okay, that's a shot I want to see.
Yeah, we're gonna look for a monster.
Really, just 4 or 5 of you with a rope, just trying to pull it. Not that I know how ice fishing works, but I'm imagining they've got to just tie a rope around the bottom of it. Like, it'll come out of that hole eventually, right? It's like suction.
Yeah, and besides that, I always thought it'd be cool to just kind of throw a dart on the board and kind of go for it, see what's there. Yeah, you never know. You don't know unless you get there. You can't catch them on the couch.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks for coming on this couch, and thanks for being a part of the festival.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. This is great. It's been an awesome experience learning how to film a television show, and yeah, we'll see where it goes.